W5FC. I don't know.
Does Charlie know?
Always 9 p.m. Saturday on 146.88. Duh.
V5SC repeater, PL 110.9.
gentlemen, I need to make myself very clear. If we uplink now, Skynet will be in control of your military.
But you'll be in control of Skynet, right?
That is correct, sir.
Skynet.
Good evening. Does anyone need to use the repeater before we begin the 9 p.m. Skynet? This is November Tango 5, Tango Mike. My name is Tony, and I'll be your net control station for this session of the DAR Skynet. Or I'll be your net control session for this station of the DAR Skynet, whichever you prefer. Skynet is a weekly net called every Saturday night at 9 p.m. concerning the subject of astronomy. Our purpose is to help amateurs become more familiar with the nighttime and daytime sky, astronomy, and space in general. This net is open to all amateurs interested in this topic, and we encourage your participation, comments, and suggestions for this net. Stations with emergency or priority traffic may enter the net at any time by using the pro words break, followed by their call sign. Do we have anyone out there who inexplicably held on to their emergency or priority traffic waiting for the net to start? And if you have an emergency and you really don't have a cell phone, just get on the radio and get someone to help you. At any rate, this is a directed net. Please do not transmit without direction from net control. Tonight, that's me, and stations are reminded to ID at the end of your transmissions. This weekly net operates on 146.88 megahertz with a PL tone of 110.9. Check-ins via Echolink are also possible using the W5FC-R station ID or the infamous Echolink node number 37247. Topics, astronomy charts, pictures, and live audio and video streams are available online. If you are only listening to this net, you are missing out on a large part of the fun. Please go to w5fc.org right now for the complete list. Watch our video stream and tell all your friends about this popular net. It's fun, it's pretty, it's cool, and you know they want to join in. All amateur operators are welcome. You do not need to be a member of this or any amateur radio club to participate. Net is roughly 90 minutes long and is structured in several parts. Depending on our schedule, we may not get to them all. We have general announcements, Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas events, National Space Society events, a discussion topic of the evening, up to me. Space exploration and space history, brought to us tonight by Kelly, K5KTX. Was Up, which Chaz will probably not be able to deliver tonight. He is with his students, I think. Discussion of the November 11th transit of Mercury, which is awesome. Mike will do that. Space launches of the week, also brought to us by Mike. Recent astronomical discoveries by Brenda. Visible satellite passes over the next couple of days by Tom. Astronomical Q&A by you, our participants, and the 73 round. Remember, if you are licensed to transmit on this frequency, yes, you are invited to check in. You don't have to join the club. It's okay if it's your first time to check into a net. Everyone is welcome if you just have a license. Okay, let's begin with short time check-ins. Anyone who has to leave the net soon but would like to show their support by checking in, please come now with your call sign, name, and location.
05. Juliet, Delta Whiskey, John and Coppell.
River 5, Whiskey, Oscar, India, William, and Alan. Short time.
Golf 5, Zulu, India, X-Ray, Joe and Wiley.
Kilo Alpha 6, Echo Tango Sierra, Phil, Mesquite, short time.
Right, I heard several short-time stations. K5 JDW, John and Capel, glad you're in town for the club meeting. N5 WOI, William from Allen. KG5 Zix, ZIX, awesome suffix, Joe from Wiley. KA6 ETS, Phil from Mesquite. All of you are short-timers. I hope you'll stay as long as you can, but I won't call on you. I know you might have to leave. Do we have any other short-time stations? Any other short-timers? Please come now. Call sign phonetically, name and location. All right, let's open up the net for general check-ins. Anyone who'd like to join us for the Skynet, please come now with your call sign phonetically, name and location.
This is Bravo number 4, Mike, Foxtrot, India, WB4MFI, Ted, Dallas, low power, long time.
Kilo 5, Kilo, Tango X-Ray, Kelly in Quinlan.
Kilo 5, Alpha November Papa, Allen in Dallas.
Papa, Mike and Richardson.
This is Kilo Echo 5, India, Charlie X-Ray, Tom Russo.
Tango Niner Victor, Michael in Plano.
Foxtrot 5, Zulu, Bravo, Lima, Bill, Farmers Ranch.
Right, I heard WB4MFI, Ted in Dallas, K5KTX, K5ANP, KG5P, KE5ICX, WT9V, and KF5ZBL. Do we have any other check-ins? Anyone else who'd like to join us for Skynet? Please come now with your call sign phonetically, name and location.
This is Whiskey Bravo 5, Oscar Zulu Lima, Brenda and DeSoto.
Mike, Charlie in Wiley, Texas. My name is Mike.
Is Kilo Golf 5, Whiskey Victor Lima, James, Mobile. Whiskey 5, Golf, Uniform, Sierra, Gus, far northeast Dallas.
All right, I heard WB5 OZL, Brenda in DeSoto, N5 MMC, Mike in Wiley. Kilo Golf 5 Whiskey Victor Lima, James, your mobile, and Whiskey 5 Golf Uniform Sierra, Gus in far northeast Dallas. Any other RF check-ins at this time? Anyone else who'd like to check in to Skynet over the radio, please come out with your call sign, phonetically, name and location.
Kilo Golf 5 Bravo Zulu Whiskey J near Weatherford.
Kilo 5 Hotel Echo Juliet. This is Edgar in North Dallas. All right, I heard an Echolink station and possibly an RF station. Kilo Golf 5, Bravo Zulu Whiskey J, probably somewhere around Aledo. Thank you for checking in from near Weatherford. And I think I got this right. Kilo 5, Hotel Echo Juliet, Hector in North Dallas. Thank you. Hector, did I get your information correct? It is Edgar Echo Delta Golf Alpha Romeo. And you got my call sign correct. I have corrected your first name to Edgar. Anglo-Saxon, not Greek. Edgar with an echo in the beginning. Okay, very good. Thank you very much for checking in with us. And let me ask if we have any Echolink check-ins. I've got the chat window open, and I will leave a huge gap here. I see several Echolink stations, including, of course, JJ, who, as usual, has no mic, so I'll check him in. But any other Echolink check-ins, please come now. Call sign phonetically, name and location, voice or chat.
This is November 5, Yankee Echo, Oscar Stevens, San Antonio, and I'm retired.
Kilo X-Ray 7, Whiskey Tango Foxtrot, Sean, Denton, no traffic.
This is Kilo India 5, Bravo November Papa, Luis in Fort Worth.
N5YEO, Stephen in San Antonio, congratulations on being retired. unless you're just very tired. But congratulations on being retired. Kilo X-Ray 7 Whiskey Tango Foxtrot, another good suffix there. Sean and Denton, welcome. Kilo India 5 Bravo November Papa. Louise, thank you. Welcome to the net. Okay, we have picked up one more Echolink station who just popped up. Kilo Golf 5 Juliet Papa November, Mark in Dallas. KG5 JPN. Mark, would you like to check in before we move on? Well, hopefully we'll pick Mark up on a future round. Okay, well that covers a lot of check-ins. I'm Tony, NT5TM, and I'm your net control for tonight's session of Skynet. Do we have anyone with general announcements for the evening's net? These announcements could be ham, astronomical, space, or of general interest to licensed hams. Anyone with an announcement for tonight's net, please come out with your call sign phonetically. That sounds pretty quiet. I will mention a couple of things. This is the first Saturday of the month, so we have a lot of things coming up. We have some great nets tomorrow, a meeting on the air, for example, right here at 7 p.m. There's an on-the-air meeting of anyone who'd like to share what's been going on in their ham world. You might have questions, things you want to brag about, frustrations you want sympathy with. Just a fun chance to share what's been going on. You don't have to be a Dallas Amateur Radio Club member. It's just a meeting of friends. Also have the RACES training net tomorrow at 8 p.m. You have to be a RACES appointee to check in, but anyone is welcome to listen. There's always a training presentation. Monday will be, of course, a ham fixins net for recipes, cooking tips, and kitchen anecdotes. And this Tuesday is the Dallas Amateur Radio Club meeting. The general meeting is at 7 p.m. at the Dallas Medical Center. That's the northeast corner of Webb Chapel and LBJ in the third floor community room of the main hospital building. This meeting is free and open to the public. Even the parking is free. We'll have our section manager, Stephen Lott, as I can't remember if that's his last name or middle name, but our section manager will be there to share what's been going on in our section. And, of course, our public service officer will be there looking for your help for turkey trot. Hint, hint. Of course, although this net is totally awesome, it's really great, but it's not the last net of the evening. That honor belongs to another net, the Afterglow movie discussion. Tom, KE5ICX, do you have any comments you'd like to share about the Afterglow movie net?
Why, yes, Tony. Yes. Yes, I do. Here's tonight's Afterglow movie net info. Tower and Temple watch the alien spacecraft weaving in and out of the space lanes. It was obvious our extraterrestrial driver had a little extraterrestrial drink along the way, too. Power flipped on the police lights, and the spacecraft accelerated to near light speed. We have a runner! Contact Mars Control and see if they can put an intergalactic block around near the Mount Pilot Space Station. That's it, guys. It's only 25 minutes long. Join us for the next improbable space adventure as we head back into forgotten space TV pilots in November. This one, The Solar Knots, from 1967, tonight at 10:30 p.m. That's it. That's all I can say. Back to you, Tony, KE5ICX.
Well, Tom, thank you very much. And yes, folks, if you head over to the Afterglow Movie Facebook group, you can find a link to watch this movie. And it's so short that even if you try to pay close attention to Skynet, you'll still have time to watch it before the Afterglow movie begins. or the afterglow movie discussion. The net will probably take longer than the movie did, because we're more fun and smarter than they were. Let's face it, we're just better. Hey, do we have anyone out there waiting to check in? Anyone who'd like to join us for the Skynet? Please come now with your call sign phonetically, name and location.
You guys get about with True Romeo Whiskey Tango, mobile in somewhere near the 183.
Hey, I heard Romeo Whiskey Tango Mobile somewhere near 183. Could I get your complete call, please?
My friend, the call is Kilo Bravo 3 Romeo Whiskey Tango. Of course, I'm mobile. I'm actually taking the 183 as I speak.
Hey, Kilo Bravo 3 Whiskey Romeo Tango. Thank you for checking in, and safe mobiling. Be careful. If you're not from this area, we have some of the worst drivers in the country. Enjoy.
Thank you very much, my friend. I am very familiar with the Texas roads, man. I'm from Oregon, actually, so yeah, I'm heading home. I'll be listening until I get to the yard. This is Kilo Bravo 3 Romeo Whiskey Tango.
All right, yep. If you're from Irving, you already know how we drive, so yeah, safe trip to you. All right, do we have anyone with news about Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas events? Chaz had said he probably couldn't be here tonight, but anyone who has news about Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas events, please come now with your call sign phonetically.
K5, KTX.
K5, KTX. Kelly, go ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, Tony. This is K5 KTX. The Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas has meetings every fourth Friday of the month, except normally on November, we normally say that it's the third Friday due to the Thanksgiving holiday. However, Thanksgiving is a little bit later this year, seems like it anyway, so we actually are having a meeting on the fourth Friday of November coming up. I think that's the 23rd or the 22nd. And our meetings are held at the University of Texas at Dallas campus in Richardson. The meeting begins at 7:30 p.m. in the Science Learning Center building, which is SLC, or Sierra Lima Charlie, on the campus map. The best place to park, the closest one to the Science Learning Center is, I think it's parking lot H. And on Friday nights, on the evenings of our meetings, you can pretty much park anywhere except for in parking spaces that are painted purple. I believe those are staff parking, and so you can park anywhere else, though. And you can go to the UTD website and get a campus map to help you locate that. Our monthly meetings include programs presented by members or guest speakers, and Chaz does a constellation of the month with his sidekick Dennis, which is always a lot of fun. And we always have some great speakers. I do not know who the speaker is for the month of November, but as soon as I know, I will pass that information along. These meetings are free and open to the public. You do not need to be a member of the Texas Astronomical Society to participate in the meetings. If you come at, the meeting does start at 7:30, but if you come about 30 minutes earlier, they usually have some kind of a presentation, either about our club or about some beginning astronomy topics. So get there a little bit early. Now, the Texas Astronomical Society also hosts observing parties every Saturday night, beginning at sunset, and each week is at a different location. So if you go to texasastro.org and click on the calendar link up at the top, then you can get complete details for each Saturday night. And I apologize, I forgot to go look and see if tonight's event is on, but normally the first Saturday of the month is at Spring Park, which is in Garland. The second Saturday, which will be next week, will be at Frisco Commons Park, and which is a really nice park. There was very good attendance at that event. Third Saturday is at J.W. Williams Park in Cedar Hill. So if you're on the southern end of Dallas, the Dallas Metroplex, that's a great location as well. And the fourth Saturday is at Rockwall at the Lakeshore Park, also another very nice location. As with our meetings, they are free and open to the public, very family friendly. And if you're in the market for getting your own telescope, this is a great place to look through a variety of different types of telescopes and ask questions of the owners, and they always love to talk about their gear. So it's a great place to learn. That's where I learned about the type of telescope I was interested in. And so, again, tonight's Star Party is supposed to be at Spring Park in Garland. And is there anybody on the net tonight who happens to be at that Star Party who would like to say something about what they're seeing or are doing right now? Please come now.
Number Tango 5. Tango Mike, Kelly, Tom, and I are both seeing on the online calendar that it's been canceled. We don't know why, but we are seeing that it has been canceled. Back to you.
All right, thank you for that, Tony. I do believe I heard somebody saying that they are looking at some new locations for that Star Party. That Star Party was originated by Jeff Barton, who actually used to live in that neighborhood, and he no longer lives there. He lives in McKinney, and so they may not have anyone that's giving them permission to do the Star Party there. So we'll be looking for some possible changes to that one, and we'll have some details on that when we know where that's at. Let's see, what else? So again, this is Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas. Go to texasastro.org and get lots of information on our website. So I think that's all I have. This is K5KTX.
Thank you very, very much. For some reason, my video feed keeps pausing. I don't know why, but yeah, annoying. Well, that's a web browser, and it's defective, but we are hams, and we are not. Thank you very much, Kelly, for that information. Do we have anyone with news about National Space Society events and activities? I know N5BB usually does that, and he couldn't be here tonight. But does anyone else have any news about the National Space Society of North Texas? If so, come now with your call sign phonetically. Well, they do have an active website and an active Facebook group. If you're interested in learning more about this organization, you can visit their website, nssofnt.org. That's November, Sierra, Sierra, the word of, November, Texas.org, nssofnt.org. They also do have a very active Facebook page. You do have to request access, but if you just search for National Space Society of North Texas on Facebook and then request access, you will receive reminders of club activities and the latest club news. Okay, do we have anyone else out there who'd like to join us? I have a lot to talk about for my topic, so don't wait. If you want to check in now. Anyone who'd like to join us, please come now with your call sign phonetically, name and location.
November 5, Whiskey Yankee, Dallas. His name is Joe.
Hello, Golf 5, Juliet Papa, November, Mark, and Dallas Mobile.
Kilo Echo 5, Mike Whiskey Echo, Chad, Dallas. Alpha Alpha 5, Alpha Hotel, Robert Richardson.
I heard November 5 Whiskey Yankee, Joe in Dallas, KG5 JPN, Mark in Dallas. I saw you in Echolink, and now I understand that you're mobile. Kilo Echo 5, Mike Whiskey Echo, Chad in Dallas. And a weirdo here, he's not from Dallas, AA5AH, Robert, who's actually very welcome from Richardson. Any other check-ins? There was at least one double. Anyone else? Please come now with your call sign, phonetically, name, and location.
This is Kilo 5, Kilo Oscar Bravo, Philip from Crandall.
Hi, Kilo 5, Kilo Oscar Bravo, Philip from Crandall. Thank you very much for checking in. All right, my name, of course, is Tony, November Tango 5, Tango Mike, and I have a confession to make. I'm a little bit weird. I'm into this stuff called amateur radio. I love building antennas and playing around with radios and talking to strangers I might never meet who are thousands of miles away. That's not too unusual, though. We're all a little bit strange. But once upon a time, there were even stranger people who thought that this crazy thing called radio, who we were only talking on, would be good for seeing things that were far away. What a big challenge, because for thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of years, people have gazed up at the sky with their eyes in wonder, admiration, and sometimes even in fear. But it's only been about 100 years that we began to look at other colors of light with other kinds of eyes. Electromagnetic waves with our radios. The story of radio astronomy begins with expensive phone calls. Many of us can remember long-distance charges, and we don't miss them. But long-distance calling was once even more expensive, especially for calls that went overseas, or more literally, underseas. Long-distance phone calls to points outside of North America traveled on underwater cables, and these were not a perfect solution. The cables were very expensive, took years to install, and were often owned by investors who charged high prices to the phone companies. And the cables were prone to failure. Anchors caught them, water leaked into them. And on top of that, there were rarely enough circuits available to meet the demand. People often had to arrange their long-distance call hours in advance. So in order to lower costs, speed up construction, and keep more of those long-distance charges for themselves, phone companies began building radio links across the oceans. They used shortwave radio just like we do. They tried various imperfect technologies to try to scramble the audio for voice privacy. Maybe I'll talk about that in a future net. And they did what they could to try to improve the call quality and get rid of static. But in order to eliminate the static, some companies felt that they needed to understand what it was. And so radio astronomy was accidentally born. Employed by Bell Labs in the 1930s to try to find what was causing all the static in the transatlantic Bell system voice circuits. These operated over the radio at around 20 megahertz. He knew that 20 megahertz was a shortwave frequency, and people usually use dipoles for that, so he built a gigantic rotatable dipole called Jansky's merry-go-round. He detected nearby thunderstorms, distant thunderstorms, and a faint hiss that he at first believed was coming from the sun. Careful timing of when the hiss appeared and disappeared revealed that it rotated once a sidereal day, not once a solar day. This was very important. These are a few minutes of difference. The source rotated once a sidereal day, and that it was strongest in the direction of the constellation Sagittarius. Now that's right. In the summer of 1931, Jansky had used a rotatable dipole on a big wooden frame and an ordinary shortwave radio receiver to detect the radio static from the black hole at the center of the Milky Way. Jansky, unfortunately, was frustrated in his efforts to follow up on this discovery. His supervisors at Bell Labs, who just wanted the hissing to go away, were interested in filtering out interference from thunderstorms, but they weren't interested in funding research into static of extraterrestrial origin. And although Jansky published his discovery in journals, astronomers themselves were uninterested in these strange, outlandish ideas. There's no telescope on that antenna. They had been looking up for a long time, and the thought of looking at graphs of signal strength versus time and frequency on paper, like some sort of telephone engineer, was not very appealing to them. Jansky died in 1950. He's extensively honored now, but unfortunately his life was too short to see much of the amazing progress that was made in his field, much of which is due to a man named Grota Reber. Very few, and I'm saying his name the German way, but he himself was from Illinois, so I'm really not sure how to pronounce it. One of the few people interested in Jansky's work was an avid amateur radio operator, Grota Reber, of Wheaton, Illinois. Reber reasoned that it should be easier to see fine detail in the sky at higher frequencies, plus the antenna would be easier to turn. And in 1937, entirely at his own expense and on his own initiative, he built a large, steerable parabolic dish, which still exists, and a receiver for the 10-centimeter microwave band. Well, 3.3 gigahertz receivers were not something you could easily buy in those years, and not much was known about how to design a good one. Unsurprisingly, his didn't actually work. Neither did he hear much at 900 megahertz. But a 160 megahertz receiver, basically a 2-meter radio, was well within the technological possibilities of the 1930s. It was uncommon, but he could understand how to build one. And with this first high-sensitivity receiver, he was able to hear many distinct radio sources in the sky. He would move his dish to different places and hear different kinds of whoops and booms and hisses, and they were all confined to specific places. He published the very first sky map ever made at radio frequencies, and he discovered the famous radio sources Cygnus A and Cassiopeia A. HOA must have absolutely hated him. If you're watching Tom's video feed, this huge, brightly painted antenna has been moved to a museum now. But back in 1937, Tom's going to show you a picture of what Reber's backyard looked like with this giant antenna in it. Everyone keeps a 10-meter dish in their backyard, right? It's not a big deal. No one will notice. Speaking of which, the astronomical world greeted Reber's dramatic discoveries with universal acclaim, awarded him a full professorship at a prestigious school, and provided large grants for further research. Well, in the alternate, sarcastic universe. In fact, he was largely ignored, and for about 10 years, he was the only radio astronomer on Earth. You think ham radio is an unpopular hobby now, you should try doing what he did and being the only one. Fortunately, the end of World War II brought a great benefit to radio astronomy. There were suddenly a ton of unemployed military radar experts. They needed jobs, and many of them were well qualified to go into academia. These were people who already understood how to build efficient radio receivers, and they already understood that something astronomers did not, that radio waves could be used for seeing things that were unknown and far away, not just for hearing music and talk shows. In the 50s, Reber's work was actually receiving steady funding, and he was able to explore new and unusual areas of astronomy, such as the study of large radio waves between 0.5 mega and 3 megahertz. Much of his work from the post-war era served as a forerunner for modern low-frequency radio astronomy work, which is also done with large dipole arrays like Meerkat in South Africa, LOFAR in Europe, and ASCAP in the Murchison Widefield Array in Australia. Reber died in 2002, and he did live long enough. He got to see museums, awards, and even an asteroid named in his honor. I've already been talking for 10 minutes, and I can't cover everything. After the war years, there were just so many prominent workers in this exciting new field, so there's no way to list them all. But I have to list a few. My presentation would not be complete without mentioning John Krause, Whiskey 8 Juliet Kilo. Krause was an expert on antennas, even before he became a radio astronomer. He'd invented the UHF corner reflector, the helical antenna for talking to satellites, and he designed a famous earlier radio telescope, the Ohio State Big Ear, which was demolished in 1997 to make room for a golf course. Actually, half a golf course. They wanted another 9 holes. He was also the organizer of a long-running SETI search, the search for extraterrestrial intelligence using radio waves. Other workers had found the cosmic microwave background in 1941. First, this was discovered by an optical astronomer who discovered that microwaves could affect the spectra of certain light, but then it was largely forgotten. It was 2 radio astronomers, Arno Penzias and Robert Woodrow Wilson, who directly rediscovered the microwave echo of the Big Bang using a big antenna. This looked like a giant ear horn on its side. You might guess, just like Jansky, they were working for Bell Labs and trying to reduce static. But they weren't working on HF voice circuits. Instead, they were trying to find sources of interference that were jamming their new communication satellites. Even after they chased the pigeons out of their big horn antenna and cooled their receiver with liquid helium, they found that the skies seemed to be a tiny bit warmer and hissier than it should be. The noise wasn't coming from the Earth, the Sun, the galaxy, or even the pigeon droppings. It seemed to come from everywhere equally. It was a residual effect of the Big Bang itself, the first direct evidence that the Big Bang theory was not a wild speculation. Astronomy has come a long way since Jansky went hunting for thunderstorms out over the ocean, but one thing is constant: it's hard. Not only is the static of the skies very faint and weak, but it's hard to collect. Visible or infrared light has a short wavelength. It provides sharp images. But even up there at 3 gigahertz, a dish 100 meters across has the same sharpness, the same resolving power of an optical lens of a 1/4 inch in diameter, something comparable to your own eye. This is why much modern work is done using interferometry, technology to combine the antennas at several radio telescopes thousands of miles apart to give the sharp resolution of a dish as big as the distance between them. Much of this work was begun at Cambridge University in the 60s and 70s, where scientists like Sir Martin Ryle and Anthony Hewish used early supercomputers to combine the data taken at different times a day to create the illusion. They used the movement of the Earth to create the illusion of a radio telescope up to 5,000 meters across. And they created the very first high-resolution microwave maps of the sky, the Cambridge catalogs. Now we don't just have C for Cambridge, we have the C2 and the C3. Of course, there's always more to do, and we can only hope that what's yet to be discovered will shed as much light on the universe as all the things that have been found already. Well, thank you very much for listening. This is NT5TM, and radio astronomy is pretty cool. Do we have anyone else up there who would like to join us? Anyone who'd like to check in, please come now with your call sign phonetically, name and location. Nothing heard. So Kelly, K5KTX, what do you have for us from the world of space exploration news and space history?
Thank you again, Tony. This is K5KTX. Well, you may remember a couple of weeks ago I had mentioned that the engineers at JPL and the German Space Agency had thought they had figured out a way to get the mole for the Mars InSight to actually continue digging. They ran into a roadblock and it couldn't go any further. Well, after making progress over the past several weeks digging into the surface of Mars, InSight's mole has actually backed about halfway out of its hole this past weekend. Preliminary assessments point to unusual soil conditions on the red planet. The International Mission Team is developing the next steps to get it buried again. A scoop on the end of the arm has been used in recent weeks to pin the mole against the wall of its hole, providing friction it needs to dig. The next step is determining how safe it is to move InSight's robotic arm away from the mole to better assess the situation. The team continues to look at the data and will formulate a plan in the next few days. Meantime, the lander's seismometer, the Seismic Experiment for Interior Structure, or SEIS, continues to collect data on Mars quakes in order to provide a better understanding of the Mars interior and why Earth and the red planet are so different today after sharing similarities billions of years ago. And if you were up maybe a little bit early this morning, Northrop Grumman launched its next resupply mission to the International Space Station at 8:59 a.m. Central Daylight Time this morning from Wallops Flight Facility in Virginia. The Cygnus spacecraft will deliver around 8,200 pounds of research, supplies, and hardware, including supplies for upcoming spacewalks and student CubeSats. The investigations making the trip range from research into human control of robotics in space to reprocessing fibers for 3D printing. Rendezvous and capture at the space station will begin Monday morning around 1:45 a.m. Central Standard Time and will be covered on NASA TV. I also found out that one of the items making its way up is an oven. They're going to bake cookies for the very first time on the International Space Station. And those cookies, the cookie dough, comes from Hilton Doubletree Inns, if you can believe that. Also on Monday, NASA and Boeing will broadcast live coverage of the CST-100 Starliner pad abort test this Monday, November the 4th, from Launch Complex 32 at White Sands Missile Range in New Mexico. The test is scheduled for 8 a.m. Central Standard Time with a 3-hour test window. So in other words, the test may not begin right at 8 a.m., but it should be sometime in a 3-hour window. Live coverage is targeted to start at 7:50 a.m. on NASA TV. Boeing's pad abort test is part of NASA's Commercial Crew Program work with the American aerospace industry to launch astronauts on American rockets and spacecraft from American soil for the first time since 2011. The goal of the program is to provide safe, reliable, and cost-effective transportation to and from the International Space Station, which would allow for additional research time and increase the opportunity for discovery aboard humanity's testbed for exploration. The test is designed to verify that each of the Starliner's systems will function not only separately, but in concert to protect astronauts by carrying them safely away from the launch pad in the unlikely event of an emergency prior to liftoff. During the test, Starliner's 4 launch abort engines and several orbital maneuvering and attitude control thrusters will fire, pushing the spacecraft approximately 1 mile above land and 1 mile north of the test stand. The spacecraft's crew module will use parachutes with landing airbags to touch down at White Sands Missile Range. It will be recovered and brought back to Launch Complex 32 for evaluation and analysis. And in space history this past week, on October the 29th, when Space Shuttle mission STS-95 Discovery launched on this date back in 1998, one of the mission's payload specialists was Ohio Senator John Glenn, who completed a historic space first for the second time in his life, becoming the oldest man in space at 77 years old. One of NASA's Mercury 7 astronauts, John Glenn was the first American to orbit the Earth when he flew aboard Friendship 7 in 1962. After he resigned from NASA in 1964, he became involved in politics, winning the first of 4 consecutive Senate terms in 1974. As a senator, John's congressional efforts focused on the aging population, and during his 9 days aboard STS-95, his efforts were no different, spending much of the mission experimenting on how his body responds to the microgravity environment. John died on December 8, 2016 at 95 years old, and to this day remains the oldest human to travel in space. On October 30th, 1964, NASA research pilot Joe walked into a very strange contraption. The machine was called the Little Research Vehicle, or LLRV, or sometimes called the Flying Bedstead. The spindly, four-legged research craft was designed to simulate the conditions astronauts would find when landing. The moon only has 1/6 of Earth's gravity, and there is no atmosphere to create drag, so the final landing had an almost vertical approach with the speed controlled by a rocket engine. The main engine of the LLRV would lift it to test altitude and then be throttled back until it only supported 5/6 of the craft's total weight. The craft and pilot would then be subjected to conditions similar to those they would experience on the moon. Walker demonstrated this principle on 3 flights on that first day of testing. As Neil Armstrong, the first astronaut to land on the moon, said, the mission would not have been successful without the type of simulation that resulted from the LLRVs. On October 30th, 1936, 83 years ago, the group of California Institute of Technology, or Caltech students and enthusiasts that would become the Jet Propulsion Laboratory, conducted its first liquid-fueled rocket test. 22 years later, in December 1958, 2 months after NASA was created, JPL was transferred to NASA from the U.S. Army. JPL is still managed by Caltech for NASA as a federally funded research and development center. But these days, JPL's main focus is on robotic space exploration and not rocket or jet propulsion. The engineers at JPL put America into the space race by building the first American satellite to reach orbit, Explorer-1, launched on January 31st, 1958. Now they're sending robotic missions to study our solar system. In recent decades, some of the major missions have included Galileo, Deep Impact, and Magellan. Current missions include Cassini, Juno, and Dawn. And also, think about October 31st. Nothing really happened, but it's Halloween. And did you know that the orange suits that astronauts wore for launch and landing on the space shuttle were called Advanced Crew Escape Suits, or ACES? Or, as they are more colorfully known around NASA, pumpkin suits. The pumpkin suit was first used in 1994 and last used on the last mission of the Space Shuttle program STS-135 in 2011. These suits were designed to be lighter, more comfortable, and reduce stress and fatigue compared to the launch and entry suits used since 1988. They are making a modified version of the ACES for the Orion crew program. And finally, November 2nd, back in 2000, exactly 6,939 days ago, Expedition 1 docked with the International Space Station. The crew of 3, Commander Bill Shepard, and flight engineers Yuri Gudzenko and Sergei Krikalev, rode aboard the Soyuz TM-31 to begin their stay on the ISS. And since that day, 19 years ago, the space station has been continuously inhabited. Expedition 1 marked the beginning of the first permanent off-planet residence for humanity. The new inhabitants of the ISS were extremely busy in their time on the station. Over the course of their 136 days aboard, they were visited by 3 space shuttle missions, as well as 2 automated resupply craft. The crew successfully installed a set of the station's solar arrays and the Destiny Laboratory. The mission officially came to an end on March 18, 2001, when the crew boarded the Shuttle Discovery, STS-102, and headed for home, but not before turning the station over to Expedition 2, Commander Yuri Yusuchev and flight engineers Jim Voss and Susan Helms. Today, on day 6,939, Expedition 61, Commander Luca Parmitano and flight engineers Alexander Skorskov, Andrew Morgan, Christina Cook, Oleg Skripkos, and Jessica Beer carry the baton forward. And that's all I've got this evening. This is K5 KTX.
Thank you very much, and I know Luca is one of the favorite astronauts with hams because he often does like to get on the ham radio, although I have never heard him. Thank you very much for bringing all that information to the net. This is NT5TM for Skynet. Do we have anyone else out there who'd like to join us? I see N5BB on Echolink. Bill, I'll check you in. Do we have anyone else who'd like to join the net? Please come now with your call sign phonetically, name and location.
Number 5, Hotel Yankee Papa, Tom and Irving. Hi, Tony.
Bill, hi Tom. I heard N5BB and N5HYP. We have to be careful saying hi, though. We now have 30 hams checked in. A combinatorial explosion is what we would get if we all try to say hi to everyone else who's checked in. Very dangerous thing. KE5ICX. Tom, would you like to give the what is up items for tonight?
Oh yes, Tony, I'd be happy to do that. I'm not a professional astronomer like certain people I know who aren't here tonight, but he had to go off, and I think he's got Chaz has a sky observing party tonight that he has, or a classroom of people that have to observe the sky, whether they like to or not. But I'm sure he'll make it entertaining. So I pulled my stuff from earthsky.org/tonight. That's someplace you can go. It'll also give you following evenings, not just tonight, but it is featured. So I'm going to give all my material from that website. So East November mid-evening, there's a star map. If you go to the w5fc.org website, or go to the website I just mentioned, you can see the same thing, or watch the video stream. It's up to you. It's hard to talk about maps on the radio. It's possible, but it gets very boring very quickly. So this is what they say. We haven't heard from many people who've seen fireballs in either the long-lasting south or north torrid meteor showers this year. Still, it's always worth keeping an eye out. Various sources give widely different dates for the peak date of the south torrids, active from late September to late November. November 6th is one of those predicted dates. November 4th and 5th might be good nights to watch for meteors, too, possibly featuring a higher than average rate of south torrid meteors. There is less moonlight tonight and tomorrow night, November 2nd and 3rd, so don't discount those nights either. Sky watchers are still remembering the torrid fireballs they saw in 2015. The torrids appear to have a 7-year cycle of bright fireballs, and 2015 was apparently a peak year. And he's got a hot link here that shows all the different photographs from 2015. So let's see here. I've got something here to show southwest, November 2nd, 2019. We've got in line Jupiter, Saturn, and the Moon. It says here both the south and north torrids, which are very active from late October to early December and peak somewhere around November 12th, are long, spread out showers with no well-defined peak. During the peak nights for the south torrid meteor shower, you might see as many as 5 meteors per hour. The American Meteor Society explains what in some years can be awesome about the torrid meteor showers. The torrids, both branches, are rich in fireballs and often responsible for increased number of fireball reports from September through November. Fireballs are the name of the game for the torrids. Seeing a torrid fireball, even if there's just one, counts as a big thrill. And by the way, a fireball is just another word for a particularly bright meteor. On any given night, these rather slow-moving meteors produce the greatest numbers in the few hours after midnight. At that time, the moon will set or will be close to setting. Because of the waxing, increasing moon will set an hour later with each passing night. You'll have more moon-free viewing on November 2nd and 3rd than from the two following nights on the 4th and 5th. So we're guaranteed to have a deliciously dark skies for the South Taurus in the wee hours after midnight tonight, and to highlight any Taurus fireball that might come whizzing by. The other Taurus shower, the northern Taurus, should add a few more meteors to the mix from late night until dawn. And again, the Taurus showers do not exhibit strong peaks. So if you're clouded out tonight and tomorrow, no problem. Just keep watching. The two Taurus showers tend to overlap and to plateau in activity during the first few weeks in November. If you trace the South Taurus meteors backwards, they will appear to radiate from the constellation Taurus the Bull, hence their names. As always, you don't have to identify a meteor shower radiant point to watch a meteor shower. Just lay back comfortably and look up in a few hours between midnight and dawn. By the way, the constellation Taurus itself is full of interesting things to see, such as the Pleiades star cluster, the V-shaped Hyades cluster with bright Aldebaran in its midst. Just be aware. You don't need to find Taurus to watch the Taurus shower, for these meteors streak all over the sky. So the bottom line is the South Taurus meteor shower has been going on throughout October, and now the North Taurus has started as well. The peaks of these showers aren't well defined, but the South Taurus might be peaking in the first week of November. So watch for it. And that's it from me. Back to net control. This is KE5I6.
This is NT5TM. Well, Tom, thank you very much. It's hard to see meteors from the city, but you've at least reminded me that I ought to spend some time trying. It would be a lot of fun if I succeeded. AG5P, you're up with Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Month.
Okay, thank you, Tony. This is KG5P. Well, tonight I was going to, rather than the constellation, I wanted to talk about a great event, a great treat that's in store for us. And this will be coming up a week from this coming Monday. But first I'm going to talk about the next space flights, because if I don't, I'll forget it. Okay, well, there's not much this week on space flights. On Sunday, November 3rd, which is tomorrow, the Chinese are shooting up one of their Long March shots that contains some kind of a mapping satellite. Also, on the 11th, which is a week from Monday, the SpaceX Falcon 9 is going to launch some of their Starlink internet satellites. Ostensibly, this is to give everybody on the planet internet access. So what they're going to do with it, I don't know, but that's what they're going to do. November 11th, also, the Indians, I'm not talking about Sitting Bull, but the other Indians, are going to have a launch. But none of these will be on video or streamed. Okay, all these can be found on nextspaceflight.com, by the way. On the November 4th, there will be a video of the Cygnus NG-12 cargo vehicle, and this will be a live stream from the ISS, where they'll do a robotic capture of this cargo vehicle. That'll be at 10:45 UTC, so I guess by then that'll be 6 hours ahead of us, so subtract 6 from 10 and get up at that time in the morning. Kelly, on November 4th, Kelly also had mentioned the Boeing CST-100. That's the Starliner pad abort test. This is part of the NASA commercial crew program. And sometime in November, we then also streamed will be EVA 59 and 60, and this will be a mission to replace batteries on the ISS. And these will be these nickel hydrogen batteries, which I can't find over at Home Depot. Carbon zincs, I guess. But all this is on nextspaceflight.com. Okay, now that's over with. Mercury, and this is really going to be cool because the next transit of Mercury will be in 2032. That's about 12 years from now, and I think I'm going to be busy that day. They're having a sing-along at the old folks' home where I'm going to be. At any rate, it's not going to be visible from the northern hemisphere anyway. It'll be, or at least from the western hemisphere, North America. It'll be visible in mostly Eastern Europe, the Middle East, parts of Central Asia, and Africa. So if you don't miss it, if you don't see it this time, you're going to have to go on a road trip. I was going to talk a little bit about that because it's really cool. And I've got my place already picked. Okay, so there's a citizen science project going on right now where actually people just like us, not the professional scientists like Chaz, can actually do some of this research and actually make some observations. And this is Skynet and this is KG5P. So our solar system is an impressively large place, but figuring out how large it really is took humanity a long time. Ancient astronomers used geometry to piece together a picture of the relative distances between planets and the sun, but they could not measure these distances in absolute terms. The missing piece of the puzzle was the average distance from the Earth to the sun, also known as the astronomical unit, or AU. Once astronomers knew the AU, the truth, size, and scale of the solar system could become clear. Nobody figured out how to measure the AU until Sir Edmund Halley, or Halley, I guess, Halley's Comet guy, that guy, who lived from 1656 to 1742. He determined when Venus crossed the sun from the Earth's perspective, and he had observers in widely separated locations, and they could see the planet's silhouette against the sun at different positions. By measuring the shift, or parallax, and we've talked about parallax before, this is the parallax of Venus's apparent position on the sun's surface, astronomers could calculate the absolute distance between the Earth and sun. And to do this, they only really needed a few measurements. And these are the distance between the observing sites, parallax shift of the planet, and the maximum angle of elongation. This is the angle between the planet and the sun, and you can find this in planetarium software. Unfortunately, Halley died before the next transit of Venus, which occurred in 1761, so he never saw his technique in action. Even then, the expeditions that tried to observe this had failed for a number of reasons. Later expeditions in 1769 had somewhat better results. So for modern day astronomers and stargazers, I hate that word stargazers. It reminds me of somebody who's laying out in the sun smoking weed or something. 2012 transits of Venus presented an opportunity to recreate this historic measurement. Venus won't transit the sun again until 2117, but observers now have a similar opportunity, and this is the transit of Venus. Okay, on Monday, this coming, a week from Monday. This Monday is the 4th, so it'll be the 11th. This will give you plenty of time to make preparations. That's why I was presenting it now. There's a citizen transit of Mercury project. We'll use Halley's technique to measure the distance to the sun using the transit of Mercury instead of Venus. Although Mercury appears to be much smaller than Venus against the sun, the approach to measuring the sun's distance is the same. Opportunity, as you will, to make one of the most important measurements in astronomy from scratch. Okay, the principles between measuring the AU are simple. As with many things in science, implementation is tricky. But we do have modern clocks with GPS and precision timing, and so determining the exact distance between locations is easy. Instead, the biggest challenge this time is a spotless sun. The sun is currently at the bottom of an 11-year cycle of magnetic activity, which is why the sun's face appears featureless. Without sunspots, it is very difficult to align images from multiple observing sites. Image alignment needs to be as precise as possible because Mercury's apparent position will only shift a small amount. The maximum shift that could be observed is just under 13 arc seconds. Now, to give you an idea what that is, the moon is about 30 arc minutes wide, which is about 1,800 arc seconds. So 13 arc seconds is about 0.7% of 1% of the distance of the sun, or the full moon. They're both the same, half a degree. So it's just a fraction of the distance of the sun. So you're going to have to be able to see, that's the maximum you're going to be able to see, is 13 arc seconds of parallax. And this would require observers in Antarctica and northern Canada. And if you're any closer, observing sites any closer will see a smaller parallax. Okay, and this is from space.com. So they say using a Herschel wedge is the easiest way to make an alignment. Which is what I have. They work better, but who's got a Herschel wedge? Hydrogen alpha solar telescopes is another way that would probably work, and I think the only one that has one of those is Kelly. So the transit measurement there's several ways to do that, and it really just involves coordinating an exact observing time with someone far away from you and sharing your images for analysis. And ideally, you and your friend would both have to have the same camera and telescope, so your images would be the same scale, but this is not strictly necessary. But what is important is you take pictures at exactly the same time during the transit, and after the event, you line the two images to see how far Mercury's position changes. Then you have to rotate the images precisely to determine exactly how far apart they are, so that would be the biggest obstacle and the challenge. So if you can't find an observing partner far enough away, or if you have bad weather, you can cheat by using the National Solar Observatory's GONG network. And I'm going to, I'll post these up on the webpage tomorrow. And the GONG Alpha, GONG, H Alpha telescopes are identical, spread across the world, and you can access the data with this data archive. So whether or not you try to retrieve Halley's methods, be sure to get out and see the transit. Mercury will transit again in 2032 and 39 for observers in Europe, Africa, and Asia, which does not include us. Observers on the other side of the world who missed the November 11th transit will be able to have to see one of those until the next transit occurs that we can see in 2049. So it ought to be cool. I have my location already picked out. This will be the opportunity, certainly, of my lifetime. So that's all I have. Thank you very much, and back to net KG5P.
Right, thank you very much, Mike. This is NT5TM for the Saturday Night Skynet. Do we have anyone out there who has a question for Mike who has been waiting or who has been waiting to check in? Sorry about that. If you'd like to join us or if you need to recheck with a question, please come now with your call sign phonetically, name and location. Well, I guess everyone has already checked in. Tom, KE5ICX, do you have any space launches to mention?
Well, actually, I think Mike covered that. The Kaisu 1A is to be determined out of China. Kaisu-1A will launch with 2 small satellites known only by the name KL Alpha. Purposes of satellites has not been disclosed. And then Mike also mentioned the Falcon 9 November 1st Starlink 1 launch. That will be at 10 a.m. Eastern Time, 9 a.m. our time, from the Cape Canaveral Space Launch Complex 40, right up the road from 39 AMD. The SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket is expected to launch the second batch of approximately 60 satellites. Oh boy, astronomers are going to love that when these things are flying overhead. That's all I got, just those 2. I jotted down Mike's website, nextspaceflight.com. I was not aware of that one. I'll go check that one out for future launches as well. Back to net control. This is KE5ICX.
Thank you, Mike. And Tom, I'm sorry I overlooked that. When you started talking about the transit of Mercury, my brain shifted into high gear, and I started looking up stuff about transits and the aberration of light, and I guess I drove out other things that you actually said. I got so excited about the transit. Mike, were you talking about NASAspaceflight.com, or was that a different site?
Well, there's several. Where I usually go is nextspaceflight.com. I'd mentioned NASA because on November 4th is this Boeing CST-100. That's the Starliner pad abort test that Kelly talked about. And the information that I had was this is part of the NASA Commercial Crew program. Exactly what that is, I'm not sure, but it's ostensibly, I guess, is to send commercial crews to the ISS. But we can look that up and present that next time. KG5P.
Hey, thank you. And yep, I have now written down nextspaceflight.com because I actually thought you had said NASAspaceflight.com in that place, and I thought just my ears were playing tricks on me. So I have corrected my notes as well. Well, thank you very much. Brenda, WB5OZL from NT5TM. Brenda, would you like to share a recent astronomical discovery?
Yes, I would. Thanks, Tony. This is WB5OZL. This article is entitled, Scientists May Have Discovered a Whole New Class of Black Holes. Black holes are an important part of how astrophysicists make sense of the universe. So important that scientists have been trying to build a census of all black holes in the Milky Way. But new research shows that their search might have been missing an entire class of black holes that they didn't know existed. In a study published today in the journal Science, astronomers offer a new way to search for black holes and show that it is possible there is a class of black holes smaller than the smallest known black holes in the universe. We're showing this hint that there is another population out there that we have not yet to really probe in the search for black holes, said Todd Thompson, a professor of astronomy at The Ohio State University and lead author of the study. People are trying to understand supernova explosions, how supermassive black holes, black stars explode, how the elements were formed in supermassive stars. So if we could reveal a new population of black holes, it would tell us more about which stars explode, which don't, which form black holes, which form neutron stars. It opens up a whole new area of study. Imagine a census of a city that only counted people 5'9" and taller, and imagine that the census takers didn't even know that people shorter than 5'9" existed. Data from the census would be incomplete, providing an inaccurate picture of the population. That is essentially what has been happening in the search for black holes, Thompson said. Astronomers have long been searching for black holes which have gravitational pulls so fierce that nothing, not matter, not radiation, can escape. Black holes form when some stars die, shrink into themselves, and explode. Astronomers have also been looking for neutron stars, small, dense stars that form when some stars die and collapse. Both could hold interesting information about the elements on Earth and how stars live and die. But in order to uncover that information, astronomers first have to figure out where the black holes are. And to figure out where black holes are, they need to know what they're looking for. One clue: black holes often exist in something called a binary system. This simply means that two stars are close enough to one another to be locked together by gravity in a mutual orbit around one another. When one of those stars dies, the other can remain still orbiting the space with a dead star, now a black hole or neutron star, once lived, and where a black hole or neutron star has formed. For years, the black holes scientists knew about were all between approximately 5 and 15 times the mass of the Sun. The known neutron stars are generally no bigger than about 2.1 times the mass of the Sun. If they were above 2.5 times the Sun's mass, they would collapse into a black hole. But in the summer of 2017, a survey called LIGO, L-I-G-O, the Laser Interferometer Gravitational Wave Observatory, saw two black holes merging together in a galaxy about 1.8 million light years away. One of those black holes was about 31 times the mass of the Sun, the other about 25 times the mass of the Sun. Immediately, everyone was like, wow, because it was such a spectacular thing, Thompson said, not only because it proved that LIGO worked, but because the masses were huge. Black holes that size are a big deal. We hadn't seen them before. Thompson and the other astrophysicists had long suspected that black holes might come in sizes outside the known range, and LIGO's discovery proved that black holes could be larger, but there remained a window of size between the biggest neutron stars and the smallest black holes. Thompson decided to see if he could solve that mystery. He and other scientists began combing through the data from Apogee, the Apache Point Observatory Galactic Evolution Experiment, which collected light spectra from around 100,000 stars across the Milky Way. The spectra, Thompson realized, could show whether a star might be orbiting around another object. Changes in spectra, a shift toward bluer wavelengths, for example, followed a shift to redder wavelengths, could show that a star was orbiting an unseen companion. Thompson began combing through the data looking for stars that showed that change, indicated that they might be orbiting a black hole. Then he narrowed the apogee data to 200 stars that might be most interesting. He gave the data to a graduate research associate at Ohio State, Birendu Jayasinghe, who compiled thousands of images of each potential binary system from ASAS-SN, the all-sky automated survey for supernovae. ASAS-SN has found some 1,000 supernovae, and it's run out of Ohio State. Their data crunching found a giant red star that appeared to be orbiting something, but that something, based on their calculations, was likely much smaller than the known black holes in the Milky Way, but way bigger than most known neutron stars. After more calculations and additional data from the Tilling-Gast reflector shell spectrograph and the Gaia satellite, they realized they found a new low-mass black hole, likely about 3.3 times the mass of the Sun. What we've done here is come up with a new way to search for black holes, but we've also potentially identified one of the first of a new class of low-mass black holes that astronomers hadn't previously known about, Thompson said. The masses of things tell us about their formation and evolution, and they would tell us about their nature. This is from ScienceDaily.com. That's all I got. Back to net, WB5OZL.
Thank you, Brenda. Yep, that was a pretty cool news story, kind of filling in a gap in our knowledge of black holes between the very tiny primordial ones and the very giant ones. Of course, no one has ever observed a tiny primordial one as far as I know either. This is NT5TM for Skynet, and hopefully I won't be the one to discover a black hole like that. I don't want to find it the hard way by having a collision with it. Tom, KE5ICX. We don't have too much time, but if you want to mention a little bit about Heavens Above, or if there's any especially good satellite passes, that would be great.
All right, thank you, Tony. This is KE5ICX. A couple of things just to mention. OTV-5 has landed back on Earth. That was just a few days ago. That's been in orbit for almost, 2.5 years. The unmanned wings of the spacecraft landed at Kennedy Space Center here, 4 or 5 days ago? In any case, we don't know what the thing does. It's Air Force secret dark ops thing. So that's no longer in our list of things to look at in the evening. But I do have currently the Korean satellite, which was launched about, 2-3 years ago. Now it continues to tumble in orbit. We have, let me give the 2 for that one, November 5th. There is a fairly decent pass. There's actually 2. The best one is 7.0 magnitude, 6:11 a.m. out of the north-northeast, reaches the highest point at 72 degrees at 6:14 and then falls at 6:18. The second good pass of that is on November 9th at 6:03 a.m. again, out of the north-northeast, reaches its highest point at 54 degrees in the east, and then falls at 6:10. I'll give, let's see here. I'll give you the Hubble Space Telescope. There's one good pass on that one. November 3rd, that's tomorrow. 1.6 magnitude. It's at 5:49 a.m. out of the west-southwest, reaches its highest point at 5:52 at 40 degrees, and falls to the south at 5:56 in the east-southeast. Now, one of the things I want to mention about these satellite passes is that you think it's hopeless. There's no way you can see these things. And some of the magnitude, brightness is relatively faint here in the Dallas area. But one of the things I can tell you is that when these things do go over, you can notice them. There is a physical movement, and it's fairly rapid, and it is very distinct. So it does not have this flickering that you would see from, say, an airplane flying overhead, from lights or anything like that. The glow or the reflection that you get is fairly consistent. Now, it will fade away and it will brighten as the reflections offer a more favorable view from where you're at. But it's very obvious, it's very direct, and it's very cool. So one of the things that I enjoyed one time was watching back when the shuttle program was still going on. Let me reset. And the shuttle Discovery had recently undocked from the International Space Station, and you saw the 2 of them flying in formation overhead. Very bright, both of them. That was a very cool thing. That was from, in any case, it was a very impressive thing. Of course, the International Space Station was brighter than the shuttle, but the shuttle had a lot of real estate on it, had a lot of surface area, so it reflected quite brilliantly as well. So that's it from me, Tony. KE5ICX. Back to net control.
Tom, well, thank you very much. Yeah, I'd like to encourage everyone to keep an eye on Heavens Above. That's heavens-above.org, I believe. Let me double check. heavens-above.com, heavens-above.com. We haven't had a lot of good ISS passes lately, but there are other satellites that are bright enough to observe, and some of them, like the Hubble, are particularly famous. Ooh, and we've got a very interesting discussion going over on Echolink about things that I don't know if I want to eat. I'm a little scared to try, but but maybe some might. Let's take a final round of check-ins. We're just about done for the night. Do we have anyone else out there, Echolink or RF, who's been waiting to check in? Anyone who'd like to join us for Skynet before we close it down? This is the final call for check-ins. Please come out with your call sign phonetically.
I'm completely operational, and all my circuits are functioning perfectly.
Afterglow Movie Net.
Right, well, let me ask then if we have any checked-in stations out there who have any final comments or questions. We may not have the right person to answer it, we may not have enough time, but we'll sure try. Any checked-in station with a final comment or question, and not about cooking squirrels, please come now with your call sign phonetically. All right, it looks like we had 30 hams checked in tonight. Thank you very much for everyone who checked in. I hope that you'll join us here next week and every Saturday night at 9 p.m. local time in Dallas to discuss astronomy, space, and space exploration. On this net, the sky is never the limit. We're always looking for net control stations for this and any other DARC net. If you'd like to take a try at it, you don't have to make a big commitment. You could just try it once. Please contact any of the net control stations or send an email to nets, N-E-T-S, at w5fc.org. You can always follow up on the topics and discussion about this net and astronomy in general on Facebook and as well as the club website. We have links to all the things we talked about over at w5fc.org. Until next Saturday night, this is Tony, NT5TM, closing the net at 22:29 local and returning the repeater to normal amateur use. 73, everybody, and enjoy the evening discovering the universe.
And this is KE5ICX. We'll be back with discussion about the solar knots from the 1967 pilot for a television series you won't believe until you... And by the way, you can probably watch it right now. It's not very long. And have comments. You could even join us on the second round if you don't check in on the first round. So 5 minutes from now, go powder your noses. Be back in 5. This is KE5I6.
since nobody's using the repeater, I'm going to take it over. Don't worry, I'll put it back when I'm done. If you really need something, let us know and we'll do what we can. Once again, yeah, I know it's starting to get like, habit or something. This is Michael, WT9V, and somehow I've managed to get saddled with being in charge of this herd of cats. Is it because I used to work for EDS? Bonus points to anybody that gets that reference. Okay, I admit it. I volunteered. I check into the hospital to have my head examined next Tuesday. I only used this once before, so I figure I've got a little bit more tread on it. I'll be your host for this evening's Afterglow Movie Net. And by host, I mean net control. And by net control, it means I'm in charge. Sitting in for Tom, because in a moment of insanity, I offered to give him another night off to rest. Reference prior comment about having my head examined. Movie Net, for those of you who are new. Well, what do? We talk about a movie that was assigned this week, like homework, and we give our thoughts on the movie, usually in 3 or more rounds: the plot, the characterization, the special effects, and whatever else. So basically like a book club, only about movies, or in this case, TV show pilots. If you aren't on the next week's movie announcement list and you'd like to be, go to Afterglow Movie, Afterglow is one word, on Facebook, and sign up. Or if you don't like Facebook, send an email to ke5icx@yahoo.com, and Tom will put you on the list. And you'll get announcements, and then you can do your homework just like the rest of us. In tonight's episode, we discuss a TV show that was canceled before it even began. In the late 60s, U.S. television had 2 live-action space shows, Star Trek and Lost in Space. Oh, I bet Tom's going to perk his ears up at that. And apparently, British television flirted with one of its own, evidenced by the failed pilot for the Solar Nauts. So this show was simple. In a future where we have colonized the solar system, the Solar Nauts are a special force dedicated to keeping us safe from alien and presumably non-alien threats. The dashing young leads are named Power and Tempo. No idea whether those are nicknames or not. And they fly around the system in a very Flash Gordon-looking spaceship while taking orders from the leader of the Solar Nauts, try us. No idea where that one came from. And former Bond girl Martine Beswick is on board as well, though she's not given much to do other than look pretty. It was the 60s, that's what women did, apparently. And supposedly make coffee, I don't know. The pilot is definitely super cheesy with its artificial-looking model, unspecial effects, jazzy theme music, stilted dialogue, poor acting, and an avalanche of sci-fi cliches. So that's what we had. This is WT9V, and now it's time to see if I've just been talking to myself or if there's anybody else out there that's awake and wants to discuss this it's a long word, bear with me, astonishingly fine episode. Yeah. Please let us know your call sign, name, location, and whether you chucked away 25 minutes of your life on this amazing bit of the 60s in Britain. Please come now.
Kilo Golf 5,
zombies need jobs. Frank in Flower Mound, and yes, I saw this fine movie.
November 5. Tell Yankee Papa, Tom and Irving, we watched this spectacle.
November Tango 5, Tango Mike, Tony in Dallas. Can't believe it, but I saw it.
India Mike, Sierra, JJ in Carrollton. And yes, I observed this fine episode.
Kilo, Foxtrot 5, Tango, Sierra Kilo, Burl in Dallas. I did see the movie. Or something.
I will never get back, and you know that gets multiplied, don't you?
Mike and Richardson. I saw about 5 minutes of it. Like Popeye the Sailor Man. That's all I can stand. I can't stand no more.
Kilo Echo 5, India Charlie X-Ray, Tom Louisville. Yeah, I saw it.
That's a really good showing for what we've got on offer tonight. Yeah. So let me see if I got everybody here, because I forgot to do this last time, and was beaten severely about the head and shoulders by Mr. General, and the bruises are still haven't quite faded. I have KG5 zombies need jobs. Will no one think of the zombies? Frank, yes, he saw it. N5HYP, Tom and Irving, yes, you saw it. NT5TM, Tony, and yes, you've gone down the rabbit hole with the rest of us. Congratulations or condolences as appropriate. KF5TSK, Burl, yes. WV5OZL, Brenda, yes. KG5P, Mike, sensibly bailed out after 5 minutes. Do you want me to still call on you, Mike?
I don't really have anything to add. I did see a good movie, though. Instead, it was the new Terminator. Arnold is Bach. Interesting movie, but I won't spoil it for anybody. KG5P.
Oh, alrighty, I'll let you. I'll let you just listen in and won't pester you then. And KE5ICX, Tom, yes, you did. Is there anybody out on Echo Link that wants to check in besides JJ? Or maybe JJ had his regular radio. I don't know. Anybody on Echo Link, please come now.
This is KG5 BZW Singular J near Weatherford, and yes, I did see the film or episode, whatever it was.
Anybody else on Echo Link that would like to check in? Can either say something or type something as I'm watching with one eyeball. I'm not going to promise a whole lot, though, because I tend to get too wrapped up in other things. Anybody else on Echo Link, or for that matter, RF, please come now.
Kilo 5, Kilo Oscar Bravo, Philip from Crandall.
And did you see this fantastic pilot, Philip?
I'm sorry I did not. I normally wouldn't even be
able to check in. Just, I'm in a public safety sector, and I'm on my way to work. K5 KOB.
Ben, I won't call on you. I did want to acknowledge Jay in Weatherford because I caught that out of the double that you and JJ had. But so we got you there, Jay. And Philip, I'll enjoy your listening. Hopefully we are adequately entertaining for you, sir. All right. So I believe that now we start talking about things. And by things, I mean solar knots from 67? Says so right there on the screen. That's very handy. Thank you, Tom, for putting stuff on the screen that I can use to prop up my fading memory. Frank, what you got for us about the plot of solar knots?
This is KG57J. Hello, friends. Tonight we review the Solar Knots, a fine British film, superbly crafted as only the British can. Adventures of power and tempo, fighting the cloud of death, the icy-onic cloud of death, battling the evil logic in his sheepwool vest against the Blabberbeetle tanks. Wow, what a disaster that was. That's 25 minutes of just disbelief, and I don't even know what to say. I'm speechless. The go-go music, the wooden models, the basic color schemes. I'm at a loss of words, old chap. KG57J, back to mind control.
So basically, I think you've nailed it, and there's nothing else for the rest of us to do. Closing the net at... No, I'm just kidding. Besides, I want to see what, a few other people have to say. Tom and Irving, this is WT9V. What do you have for us?
WT9V in the net. This is N5H5P. Yes, Holly and Anna and I watched it, and we knew it was going to be something special when that opening music showed up. And it continued, and it continued, and it continued. One heck of a long open. And it was kind of amazing. I think they were trying to copy the Star Trek theme just a little bit. They couldn't afford a theremin, however, so they had some person kind of wailing in the background. That was just real special. And then you got to the show, and the plot was so darn basic. It was and so holy, and you had no clue why this guy had thought he had any better claim to the solar system than the good guy folks did. So, of course, he was the bad guy, and somehow they defeated him. And boy, it was amazing how bad the acting was, how bad the fighting was, how bad the special effects were, and even for 1967, boy, wow! I'm glad it was that. It was only 25 minutes long. I could go on forever, but it would be longer than the flick. So I'll send it back to net. This is N5H5P.
Oh, the true tribute of a truly horrible film is that we end up talking about it longer than it actually lasted, which isn't going to be very difficult tonight. In all fairness, we're almost there as it is, but yeah. 55 PM. Tony, lightness with you and Aaron's thoughts on this. Yeah, whatever. I can't really say what it is because the FCC would get mad at me. 55 PM from WT90.
As far as the plot, it was really badly done because, as everyone has alluded to, it was first off very formulaic and boring. They had some big bad who was trying to conquer the solar system with clouds of obnoxiousness, or maybe it was a very smelly, I don't know, something. But the thing is, a better show could have strung that out for years. Who is this person? Why does he want to rule the solar system? Maybe Mars is tired of the dominion of the solar knots. They'd like to wear clothes that have less spandex and aren't quite as shiny. They want some wool and cotton in their lives, and so they want to break away from the control of the solar knots and join up with the big bad. These are all things that could have been explored at some length over a period of years, but nope, they do this entire conquering the solar system attempt plot in 25 minutes. And yep, I want to sneak in a few other comments. I'll just reset quickly here. Sick, bad, acting silly, Britishisms, shut up and do your job. Also silly. Oh boy, spandex, tight trousers for everyone. That was just the thing. That was this show's strong point going to be, apparently. And they really, there seems to have been a rule against texture. I had to look this word up. It's called greeble, or sometimes widgets or wiglets. The stuff you put on the models to give them textures and to make them look more detailed. Even like children's model trains will have little details molded in of all the little vents on the diesel engine and the parts of the boxcars and the little wood of the boxcar doors and so forth. That was apparently banned in this universe, so all the models are completely smooth and look like they're an inch tall. But the weird thing was they continued that theme into the live action. Costumes that were featureless and smooth and satiny, walls that were completely flat and just looked like a coat of paint. Nothing had any texture. It was like it had been forgotten about in the historical dim ages. So, yeah, its only redeeming feature that it was short. NT5 TM.
WT9V. In case y'all forgot. I don't really figure any of your memories are that short, but just in case. Yeah, I was briefly looking, and maybe somebody else can dig up this nugget of information. Was this a BBC thing? And if so, wow, have their production values improved since then? Or was this ITV? It was probably ITV. Because they had a lot of the really cheesy stuff. On the other hand, BBC had Doctor Who, and it was lovingly cheesy. But anyway, N5 IMS, JJ, thank you for being here and nearly, passed out briefly whenever I heard you checking in. Take it away, JJ.
One thing to answer your most recent question, according to the credits, it said it was an ABC TV production. Now, I don't think that's ABC TV as in the American ABC TV. I think that was kind of a spin-off production company over there in Britain. But, that's what the credit said, so for whatever that's worth. Well, let's see, focusing on the plot here. I think what they did as far as the plot was they took all of the current flicks that were, relatable on there and got the plot ideas from them. Cut out little strips of paper, stuck them on a wall, blindfolded somebody, got a dart, and threw the dart, whatever piece of paper that dart hit, that's what we're going to film today. And so they filmed that and went back, and the next day they threw the dart again, and that's what they filmed the next section. At least that's what it seemed like. This N5 IMS.
You watched the credits? I mean, I couldn't wait to hit the stop button on that thing the moment. Well done, sir. I applaud you for your stamina and hail and hardiness. And yeah, that's kind of how I thought they did the plot from last week's travesty too. Except I figured it was note cards, and then they just shuffled them. Anyway, and KF5TSK, Burl, what do you have for us about the plot of Solar Nauts?
This is KF5TSK. Well, I got a cup of coffee, large cup of coffee, and sat down to watch the movie. And I was like, what happened? Where did it go? You know, the thing about the plot, it was no explanation of anything that, you know, who are these people that want to take over the world? Are they mechanical? Are they human? Well, they look mechanical. Anyway, I was so disappointed I went and watched Spaceballs again. KF5TSK back to net.
And I cannot blame you in the least. Miss Brenda, it's right there on my screen. WB50ZL. Would you consider changing your call sign so it's easier for me to say? I'd really appreciate it. WB50ZL. Miss Brenda, what you got for us about this? Words fail me. The thing we watched.
This is WB50ZL. Well, certainly, I'll be glad to change my call sign for you. Why don't you tell me what you want me to change it to? And I'll be happy to. Well, I wondered why they were called solar knots. And looking on the internet, they were a special force dedicated to keeping the solar system safe from alien threats. So that's why they're solar knots. I wondered about that. Astronauts, we know what those are, but I had wondered what a solar knot was, and now I know. Oh, this poor thing. I just, you know, sometimes you see a, you know, poor little animal or something that's just so pathetic. You just, you think it ought to be put down, but you just don't have the heart to, because it's so sad, so pitiful. And that's the way this movie was. It just was pitiful. I don't know what they were thinking. Although one thing that was cute, except for some of the actors were fairly attractive, that little bitty spaceship that chugged along kind of made me think of Thomas the Train Engine, you know, just chugga as it went along, and it was just cute as it could be. Plot. Was there a plot? I don't know. Maybe it was a half plot. Why did we do this? We have to question our sanity. Back to net, WB50ZL for now.
Okie dokie then. And, you know, I can't disagree, because it was truly amazingly bad. But that's what we live for here, as far as I can tell. I'm still fairly new at this. Okay, so Mike and Richardson, I'm not forgetting you, but you said you didn't have anything to talk about, so that leaves, or brings us to, rather, Tom in Louisville, Mr. President, my liege, etc. Now scrape back away. What you got for us, Tom? Because this ought to be good. WT9V to KE5ICX.
And this is KE5ICX. I saw much more. far deeper and more illuminating than perhaps the rest of you did. I saw in this whole thing an organization, a group of people in shiny outfits who go across the galaxy, well, not the galaxy, across the room in small space, huge spaceships, communicating and keeping the solar system safe. There was no doubt about it. Our astronauts, whatever they were, the solar-nauts were busy saving us from evil and evilness. Maybe the evil league of evil. It's hard to say. But in all cases, they were doing the job, which harkens back. The inspiration, this show, was the germination of other series, like The Expanse. The Expanse, which has evil everywhere. Some of it's purple, some of it's not. Or the rebellions that were taking place on Mars, such as in Babylon 5, which was a fantastic series with very similar alien makeup. Or perhaps the fact that everything's 17 to 24 inches away from one another, like Firefly and the Verse. The fact that you could go from planet to planet easily and have Wild West things going on there as well. So, to me, I mean, this show was the inspiration of everything that came after it. Perspiration, perhaps. In any case, I thought it had exceptional opportunities. First off, I'm going to tell you, well, I can't tell you this because that's special effects. I thought the music rocked, man. All of the music was jazzy, cool. It added to everything. By the way, well, I can't tell you about that either because that's that stuff, because it's a big, huge thing. And the straws were pretty cool, too. Everything that I want to talk about is actually in the special effects. Okay, I'll stop now and allow others to their turn to defy me. Back to net control. This is KE5ICX.
Well, thank you, Tom. And I'm looking forward to part 3, where we're going to stretch this until 2 o'clock in the morning, I'll bet. Or maybe not. I'm not going to put any money on it. KG5BZWJ, somewhere around in the near vicinity, perhaps far vicinity of Weatherford. Tell us what you got tonight, Mr. J. Please come now.
Toledo, Hudson Oaks, Willow Park, Weatherford. It's all just around. Yeah. Anyway, that's actually more interesting than the plot. Which I don't know. Literally the first thing that I thought of when I saw this was like, this is like some sort of cheesy Lone Ranger episode or something. I don't know. I couldn't. It literally, well, I'm not going to say that. It just reminded me of some Western, something that I had seen so many years ago, and it just was really simple and kind of pointless, and I don't know. I'm actually of the opinion it was fun, even if it was ridiculous and not really, I don't know, certainly not thought-provoking or anything like that. It was just a dumb fun. Part of me enjoyed it. I don't know why. Maybe it was just the absurdity of it all. The models that really do look like models. I don't know, the pseudo police hierarchy or something like that was involved in. Okay, here they are going to take care of the local gangster, and and of course he escapes to whatever next episode that they had intended to film. But I don't know. It's just maybe I'm in a better mood when I was in a better mood when I watched it, and maybe that's why I enjoyed it. But there's not much to this. It was kind of like a look back at the '60s, and I guess maybe I'm not that old, so I don't even know what I'm referencing there. Yeah. I think I'm just gonna leave it at that. KG5BTW.
Alrighty then. Windows. I got too many windows on my screen. And no, I'm not running Windows. So, calm down, Tom. Don't go there. I don't have a whole lot of notes and things that haven't already been said a couple of times, but one of them is like, what is it? All of their numbers were something over something. You've got a reading of 3 over 6. 3 over 6 what? Somebody explain this to me. Also, enemies from extrasolar systems, i.e. solar systems that aren't our solar system. And I was really amused by the sudden unexpected girl plot twist being unexpected. Really, I don't have anything. There's nothing else I got to say at this point, so I'll just see if there's anybody else out there that wants to check in on Echolink or on RF to talk about Solonauts from 1967. If so, now's your chance. Tell me who you are, whether you saw it, or if you're just listening. WT9V. Like a big resounding, not getting involved in this. So, we're going to go back to Frank. 5, Z and J, for your thoughts on characterization. This should be good.
This is KG5, Z and J. Well, the plot can be summed up as rubbish. Characterizations, likewise, rubbish. Special effects, rubbish. Look back in a bloody rage. Should have named this television show The Rubbish Knots. This is KG5-7J. Back to mind control.
Starting to sense a theme here, Frank, that perhaps that you thought this whole thing should have been put in the dustbin, as they say over in the other place, over across the pond, where they seem to have strange ideas of what outer space should be like. I don't know. N5HYP, Tom and Irving, thoughts on the characterization of this thing. Go ahead, take it, Tom, over to you.
Hey, this is N5HYP. There wasn't, again, there was characters were very cardboard just because it was a pilot, and, you didn't have, even if they had the capability to develop any characters, there isn't time in 25 minutes to develop any characters. That being said, they all were characters and or caricatures, and the only kind of a surprise thing was the lady from wherever who got caught trying to bop one of the solar nauts in the head with a rock. But then she became an ally and kind of helped save the day. And that was one of the only little twists in the whole deal. Interestingly enough, again, she was the only one that had kind of sort of quote, what I think was Tony talking about their spacesuits. She was the only one that had any form of an interesting-looking spacesuit. But just overall, poor characters because they didn't have time. Thank God they didn't have time. That it never went beyond here. This is N5HYP, back to net.
Okay. You just cracked me up there and then threw it back at me. Oh, I had to get myself under control before I, heat up. Otherwise, appearances and things. 55 TM, Tony, get ready because it's coming your way right about now.
I really wish I'd thought of something insightful or clever or witty to say, but sadly this video production was not very conducive to that. Unless someone else has something I want to react to, I'm just actually exhausted all my thoughts on this. NT5TM, back to net.
Read my mind and took what I was going to say right out from under me. Thanks a lot, Tony. But we'll give you a chance, if you come up with something in reaction to something someone else says, because that's part of the fun. JJ, it's going to be your turn next. N5 IMS from WT9B. What you got for us on characterization of the solar knots?
It seemed to me like there wasn't too much in the way of characters. They were basically generic cookie-cutter people. It didn't matter who was in which role. They would have been just as bad in that role. And, I did feel kind of sorry for the woman. It seemed like she was there either as an afterthought or one of those things when they had a meeting after that they did most of the stuff, they said, well, we'll need a love interest if this series is actually going to be bought, so we better, have a woman in there. Maybe they had it for that. And, of course, the only other thing she had was nobody else had pockets, so she had to have some place to keep the bombs. And now, where the bombs originally came from, I don't know. Now, on a related note, you'd think that the spaceship was made out of aluminum to save weight, but, the bombs were magnets, and you could actually hear them sticking to the steel walls in there. So, just made no real sense at all. Now, I'm going to extend the character just a bit. Let me reset. And extend it to the small spaceship. I agree with the others that said that that small spaceship was kind of cute. I think it was, but every time I saw it, it reminded me of two different things. First off, it reminded me of a helicopter. It even had a little kind of cross piece up on the very top that would make a very small propeller for its rotors. So it even kind of went that far. Now the other thing was, it reminded me of Starbug from the other great British thing, Red Dwarf. So just every time I saw it, one of those two flashed in my mind and couldn't really tell too much else it was doing. Back to net, N5IMS.
I'm sorry, this is a British endeavor, so it's aluminium, not aluminum. You've got to get that right. And yes, that is, you stole one of my comments from special effects, because the ships to me look like the Bell Model 47 helicopters, like the medevac ones at the beginning of MASH. It's the same thing, same ship. I think that's where they stole it from. Or borrowed it, or whatever, I don't know. Anyway, let's see, where am I on my list? That would be Burl, N5, TSK. What you got for us? Burl? Please come down.
SK5 TSK. Well, I was waiting for a synopsis from Tom, but I suppose that we were supposed to write the synopsis for him, but I don't know if I saw the trailer or the movie. Kind of short. The worst thing about the whole movie to me was those helmets. I don't know what they were putting on. They looked like they were welding helmets. Where were they going? It really made sense. The characters just showed up out of nowhere, and they just went away. What were they doing? K5 TSK back to net.
Synopsis. It was sent out in email and stuff. I can toss it over to Tom, and he can read it for you if you'd like. Read the synopsis for us?
Well, I could. For whatever good it will do you. It is as follows. It's only like 4 sentences. Tower and Temple watched the alien spaceship weaving in and out of the space lanes. It was obvious our extraterrestrial driver had a little extraterrestrial drink along the way, too. Power flipped the police lights on and the spacecraft accelerated to near light speed. We have a runner. Contact Mars Control and see if we can put on an intergalactic block around them near the Mount Pilot space station. That's it. Join us for the next improbable space adventure as we head back into forgotten space TV pilots. This one, The Solar Knots from 1967, tonight at 10:30 p.m. And all the ships at sea. Back to net control.
Again, that sounds more entertaining than what we actually watched. You should make a film for us to watch, Tom, because it would be... we'd all wet ourselves, I think, just laughing uproariously. Anyway, it is Brenda's turn to WB5. Oh, hello. Take it away, Miss Brenda.
This is WB5OZL. We're talking about characters, plastic people. They did have a pretty girl. She was a Bond girl. So if you look at some of the footage from some Bond movie, she's very attractive. So she's perfect for the part. I don't know what else she did. Did she make coffee or sandwiches? Now, she was good for flirting with, I'll say that. Because every good movie about science and space needs to have some gratuitous romance. So, characters are plastic. The bad guy was really obvious. They had cool names, I'll have to say that. And don't know if those are nicknames or what, but anyway, that was cool. Oh, I just don't have anything else to say. WB5OZL.
You are absolutely correct in everything you just said. And that kind of goes back to the Greeble, I believe it was. The lack of any kind of texture on anything. Everything in this show looked like it was popped out of a plastic mold that had been polished within an inch of its life before molding up the plastic. Micah Richardson is just listening, so that brings us back around to the master of the system, Roll K5ICX. Tom, what you got about characters? Got anything about characters? You said you had a lot about special effects, but do you have anything about characters? K5ICX from WD9V.
All right, fine. You want characterization? Oh, this is KE5ICX, by the way. Tower and Tempo, they were tops and taps and terrific at their tremendous topical, tediously terrific temperaments while traveling through translatable space triads. So in any case, yeah, they were fine except for the carpet things they were riding on. But in any case, I think the acting was to be expected. The purple blue guy, whatever it was on your TV set, he was either blue on one TV set, maybe purple on the other. He was maniacal, and he had something going on there. He was really angry, but he had anger issues. And when you see Tower and Tempo going after him and then blowing up his beautiful space station and everything, whatever the hell that thing was he was on, the spaceship, it was obvious that things were going horribly wrong and there was going to be a big mess, and he had to re-wax the floors and everything. So I'd be mad too. In fact, I'd be so mad I would be even madder than mad, especially with TNT. And you can interpret that whatever you want, but that's Tower and Tempo, to be honest. So, yeah, characterization, same old, same old. We've seen this all before. Gosh, what do you say to something about characterization in a 25-minute show that lacks any, well, it was in color. That was pretty cool. It was in color, 1967. And it was brilliant. Oh, that's going into the other stuff. I'm all out. I've checked my pockets. All I got in here is lint. There was nothing really great about any of the characters. The purple blue guy was okay though. KE5ICX.
I'm gonna need you to pull that lint out for, so that we can stretch these things out a little bit longer. I might even have to ask you about space stations, but we'll get around to that. That brings us around to Jay. KG5BZW on Echolink, somewhere out. Where is Weatherford anyway? Or near Weatherford. Where is near Weatherford? Oh wait, you already did that before. Jay, your turn. Take it away, Jay.
This is KG5BZW, yeah. West of Fort Worth. That's what I tell everybody else whenever I've ever gone, well, not abroad, but, you know, in the States, wherever. It's like, oh, where are you from? Okay, yeah. Yeah, just, anyway, the characters. Oh, man. If you thought that the characters were flat, the human characters were flat, those alien characters. Goodness, I don't know, the Frank, I know we're talking about, last week we had Frankenstein, it's actually more of a trope now, the two hands kind of slowly at like quarter mile speed going to go for your body next something. One guy just kind of just killed me. The aliens were just so funny. Just like what? Where did where did they get the talent? Somebody, I guess, is like. I almost think they just got extras that weren't even actors. It's like, oh, can you tolerate getting makeup put on you? Okay, good. You're up next. I don't know. I'm just making that up. I did think the stun gun or the they had a name for it. Not worth remembering. I think it was the best character because it always froze the aliens in these very unique positions that were way more interesting than the actual characters themselves. So I'm going to say the stun gun thing was the best character of the show. KG5BCW.
My turn. Let's see. Philip said he was just passing through, listening, heading to work or something, I think. So, but didn't have any comments. So I guess that means it's time for me to see if there's anybody else that would like to check in. I see Bill over on Echolink. I don't know if he wants to talk to us, though. He might be busy or might not have seen the show or might just want to make comments. But anyway, anybody else that would like to check in and make observations about the solar naughts, 1967, please come now. Just thinking I need a clock so I can see how long I'm sitting here waiting, and then I remembered, oh yeah, I have a clock behind my screen. I really don't have much to say about the characterization of the characters because my initial thought watching this was there are characters. As mentioned, you can't really develop much of anything in 25 minutes. There wasn't really anything in there for me to care about. You have to have a good hook on a pilot. You have to get people interested so that they want to watch more. And this didn't really do it for me. I was kind of like, okay, it's over. Don't really regret the fact there wasn't anything else. So now we move into what may be the best part. Special effects. or pretty much whatever else you have on your mind. So, what do you have for us, Frank, about special effects, the solar knots, KG5 zombies need jobs? Please enlighten us. Bail on us? Did I miss that earlier? I know he said some stuff, but I thought he was going to come back. One more time. Frank, are you still out there?
Oh, yes, I'm here. Sorry, old chap. KG5ZJ. What are we talking about now? Special effects?
Special effects or whatever else. I'll just throw it open, you know. This is the SFX/whatever section of the net.
Okay. You know, when I first saw it go on, it reminded me right away of the Super Marionation, you know? You know, for a second there, I thought I was going to see Supercar, you know, like, I was like Super Marionation or something, and I wonder if the people who worked on that had a little hand in that. I don't know. I really thought I was going to see puppets, and then it was live action. So that's my take on the special effects. It was like Super Marionation. Back to you, KG5ZJ.
And yeah, it was something else. So that brings us around to Tom and Irving in 5H1P. What do you have on thoughts on anything else? Special effects, etc., makeup, whatever, doesn't matter. Your thoughts, Mr. Tom and Irving, sir.
This is N5H5P. You know, to be very fair, in the television industry, especially back then, there just wasn't a lot of money to throw at pilot programs. You know, the whole idea of a pilot show was, let's create this, let's shop this to the networks. In this case, they had to be shopping it to BBC or maybe ITV, which I think did exist in England at the time. So, of course, just wasn't a lot of bucks around. So the whole idea was you were throwing the show to programming execs and hope that it would stick. You know, there's a lot of pilots even today produced that aren't that, you know, that they don't really have a great budget. So you're kind of hoping that the concept is what sells the project. You know, back then in the 60s, Star Trek, the original pilot, didn't look at all like Star Trek as it ultimately matured on NBC after it did get signed and did air. You know, other shows like that came on, you know, more or less the concept was what was being sold. Well, obviously, the programming execs at BBC or ITV in London really didn't want anything to do with this story because they didn't see it going very far. So that's why it didn't have a lot going for it to start with, and they saw that it didn't have a lot going with it later on. I did want to say that I agreed with someone about the helmets that the solar nauts wore. They kind of reminded me of trash cans with an open front. Yeah, welding helmets works too. I didn't think about that. Oh, the girl who was going to pop the one guy in the head with a rock actually had kind of interesting headgear. I thought that was rather stylish as compared to the trash can / welding helmet. And Brenda brought up the a couple people brought up the model, old space model. I couldn't help thinking of, if you remember the Star Wars Farce Hardware Wars, the little short film. You'll laugh, you'll cry, you'll kiss $3 goodbye. Well, Hardware Wars. There was an iron, and there was a teapot and such like that. Well, I thought they probably got their inspiration from this show, because the Solar Nauts craft kind of looked like a cross between, like you said, a helicopter and a teapot. So there we go, back to net. We're fun. Wait to see what happens next week. This is N5HYP, back to net.
Thank you, Tom. Yeah, what happens next week? That's going to be an interesting one. We'll get to that in a bit. MT5TM, Mr. Tony. And do this slow so you can watch. Oh, wait, my turn. And reach for your radio. MT5TM, take it away, Tony.
Well, thank you, Mike. Yeah, you're actually right. Usually I'm listening on an HT and an earpiece and occasionally relaying the better comments to Aaron. And then when it's time to transmit, I have to run to the real radio or walk. At this time of night, walk in a fairly tired, kind of dazed fashion. That's more than I have to say about the movie. Yep, I'm like everybody else. I'm out of things to say about the movie. Just curious about the next one. NT5TM.
Can't say as I blame you. Although, strangely enough, I have more to say about special effects and stuff and things in there than I had about all the rest of it combined. But we'll get to that. N5IMS, JJ. That would be you, sir. And once again, I congratulate you on having found your microphone for this week's net. It's been a pleasure having you here, and I look forward to seeing or hearing what you're going to say now. N5IMS from WT9V.
I know most people have drained their brain about what they remembered from the movie. And just to be clear, I took notes. See, there is art and advantage to doing things. Well, one comment that is probably as close to special effects as I could get. When they were launching missiles, how can you launch missiles from a Navy artillery gun? It just doesn't work that way. You know, those are artillery shells. There's not missiles. Oh, well. Now, the other two more things. One of them, why was it so hard for them to find LoJack, who is the evil guy? Couldn't they have just used the PD's LoJack, the location system, to find him, instead of just happen to be lucky and stumbling across him from the, tiny ship? Oh, well. Let me reset. And my final comment is kind of how they could have easily summed up the movie, although admittedly, back when this was being done, this technology didn't exist. But don't you think they could have just called Amazon and had them shut down the cloud? This is N5IMS.
Oh, that was bad. That was bad. I'm going to remember this the next time. I hope you get a microphone. Anyway, Pearl, you're up next. KF5, TSK. What are your thoughts on whatever at this point? Special effects, other things. Yeah, whatever. Pearl, N5 TSK.
That's KF5TSK. Well, the beginning of the movie, they were showing all these structures, and I was like, this will really be a great set, to see. And, it was really just a model. And I always look at the furniture and just to see what were they thinking, what did they think was comfortable. Everyone seemed to have these small chairs with low backs in them, and I was like, nothing seemed to be very comfortable. Of course, the spaceship seemed to have something that was truly comfortable. I don't know what the foam was, but looked like the type they put on beds. But another thing was, they were going to blow up the tunnels, and that was supposed to do something. But he actually shot a ray gun at whatever was controlling the cloud, and that made everything go away. But in blowing up the tunnels, didn't they need oxygen? KF5TSK back to net.
For massacring your call sign. I was looking at my list at N5IMS just in front of you, and then my brain kind of... Anyway, apologies for that. WB50ZL. I know I better not get that one wrong. Miss Brenda, your turn is coming up now.
This is WB50ZL. Well, what did I think about the special effects? I doubt that anything was more than a couple of inches tall. I went to the model store and bought a bunch of models and they used the spare parts. And some of these may have been off-the-shelf toys as well. Not sure. Some of them might have just been animation. Oh, I did have one comment. Someone said it made them think of puppets. I thought they were puppets. Did I miss something? I don't know. Special effects. Wasn't very realistic in terms of space, I'll say that. They broke a lot of rules. Wasn't much of a story. Oh dear, it's just so hard to say something. Either way, either nice or not nice. It's hard to say anything. I don't know. I'm at a loss. I think my brain was damaged by watching this. Anybody else got a problem? This is WB50ZL.
Are not alone in this. Okay, Mike Mike had better sense than we did and bailed out of this thing after 5 minutes. So that brings us around to Tom in Louisville. K5ICX from WT9V. Take it away, Mr. Tom. I know you're right there. You don't have to go running to the other room to get the radio. Just put your foot in the right spot and press down now.
Oh, thank you, Michael. That sounds so creepy in so many different ways. I can't even begin to tell you. All right, let me start with something. My job completely changed. In February of last year, and that is that I went from doing stuff in the field, helping technicians and doing things to make the world a better place, and now I do it all on video and write scripts and do all of that. So I'm a little closer to these people and what they do, which is really kind of creepy in a way, and I'm going to put this hazmat suit on. But the thing about it is this: when you're doing special effects or you're trying to create something out of nothing, you got to make choices. You got to decide how far you're going to go, and you got to do it with how much money do you have. I look at this show similar to what John Dykstra did with what we'll be talking about next week, which I bet you Frank will tell us about. So don't run away, Frank. With what was it? The Star Lost. John Dykstra, who is the guy that created all the special effects for what was it? Star Wars. When given the right amount of money, could do some really cool stuff. He didn't have any money for the previous show that he did with the Star Lost, and it looked pretty crappy. This series also came up before 2001: A Space Odyssey, which created all the super hyper detailed stuff. But it also came after Star Trek, which almost killed itself by trying to make the special effects look realistic. And the series actually lost money when it was put on NBC. It lost money. And one of the things that they knew or were able to figure out over at Desilu Studios at the time is that we can make money in reruns. We won't make it in first run. We'll make it in reruns. I don't think these people had any idea about what that meant at the time. And they knew that this was a huge gamble. There's also the whole thing with Star Trek: The Next Generation, the fact that they had to spend money on special effects, and they didn't know if they were going to make it or not. So they were going to tag on to the end of the original series, and it's and added kind of if you would, a fourth season. Well, when you have any of that stuff, you've got to decide how much money you're going to spend and how you're going to spend it. Yeah, the series sucks. This show sucks in so many ways. But I think they were just ran out of money. Like most people doing series, they run out of money. How you got 30 minutes, you got 25 minutes to do a show. How much money is that? Plus they cut it in half. It's not 60 minutes long, it's only 30 minutes long. So what do? And you got to do special effects. Well, I don't know. Twilight Zone didn't have any money and were able to produce pretty much a good show, which mostly took place in a room somewhere. % of their stories had nothing to do with special effects. 90% of the stories had everything to do with telling a good story in a way that people understood it. And even that series was plagued over and over again by the budget problems. But somehow you do a radio program on a set. So this series takes place in space. It's supposed to be expansive and exciting and different, and it's supposed to make things work. You got $12.95, and don't spend it at lunch. So I'm going to defend it, even with the little spaceship that could. It was kind of cute, though, I have to admit. What was the propulsion thing on that? I don't know. And the other thing is, too, if building models, if you want things to have a good depth of field, be like I.B. Melendor, who did the special effects for Lost in Space. In the first season, he had what was it? The flying saucer, the Jupiter 2 was, what the hell was that thing? It was like 20 feet wide for the landing sequence. So it was huge, and you got great depth of field. When you don't have a budget to do something like that, it probably cost $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 for the thing back in 1964 to build that model. You've got $12.98, so you're going to build the little spaceship that could. And yes, everything's on the screen. You can tell and you can see and figure it's not going to work. So everything is a series of choices. What things are going to work? What can you do? What can you get away with? And I think one of the attractive points of doing this net at night is that we get to talk about that. We get to play the armchair quarterback or the Monday morning quarterback on everything. And where did it all go wrong? Well, we can tell, and they probably knew too. So I'll get off my high horse on this one, or low horse, as it may be. Let's see, what else was I going to say? All right, I'll pick fun at things, but I thought it was rather ingenious. The big, super big city, I thought that was kind of fun. It's the size of one of those little eggs that you shake, and then the little snow comes down and all that, whatever they call those things. Welcome to Fort Lauderdale during a snowstorm or whatever. But the little spaceship, I thought that having a transportation system inside was kind of a waste of money, but there were little straws that had bubbles in them, and that was the little transportation things. But you know what? They did that with Star Trek, the movie, and the reboots that they did here back in, I don't know what it was, 2000, I don't know. I don't even know anymore. I'm getting old. I can't remember that stuff. But the one with the Newkirk guy. At any rate, they did exactly the same thing, but they had a huge budget to make it look good. Okay, that's it for me. KE5ICX, back to mind control.
I'm in control of something, but it's debatable as to what. This brings us around to Jay, KG5BZW. What are your thoughts on everything else, Jay?
This is KG5BZW. Yeah, I'm not going to be able to talk, I think, anybody else on the talking points on the special effects or anything like that. I kept on going back to this, the most pointless countdown that I can ever think of seeing in a TV show. Wow. Just thinking about that climax or supposed climax of the story just makes me wonder what they were really thinking the stories, the general format of these stories were really going to be. I mean, that I was up to I mean, I guess it was supposed to build tension, but I'm sorry. I'm just randomly laughing at things, and I just think it's amusing, and I guess that's good enough for me. Oh goodness, yeah. I'm still trying to figure out that countdown, the whole point of it, and everything. I may never figure it out. No, it's not that I won't figure it out. I just won't care. And that's it. KG5BGW.
Thank you, Jay. Let's see, Philip is once again acknowledging Philip, but he didn't have anything he wanted to contribute and didn't have time or just listening for entertainment purposes, which is perfectly fine. And now I'll pause momentarily in case there is anyone else that would like to check in at this point to have any input on the solar odds. Please come now. was not. I got really lucky with that last week. Tom just waved his hands and ran off screen. Wonder what he's up to. Some kind of mischief, no doubt. My thoughts when I was watching this, and I actually wrote down a lot, so, buckle up. Tom, once again, you've hit the nail on the head. It's about telling a story, and when producers forget that basic concept, we get things like the solar knots. And let's remember that in jolly old England, naught means zero. And Bernal, I believe you were absolutely right. Those egg crates on the chairs looked exactly like the same blue cushions that they use for bedridden patients to reduce bed sores. My mother, the nurse, would bring home spare ones from the hospital now and then, presumably clean. I think she just stole them out of the supply closet or whatever. But really, those chairs looked so comfy. I want one. Nice and cushy and stuff. I'm thinking not the best continuity. The view of the cloud from the viewport was white with a blue sky, and then they switched to an external view and it was red. This is Mars, of course, so it's got to be red. And noted that I don't know if it was the worst miniature work that I've ever seen in my life, but it was close. It was, in the top 5, well, probably the top 2. And I did note that those ships looked to me like dull Model 47 helicopters. Nash flashback time. I was impressed by Logic's gesture-based control in 1967. We're still working on that now, but he had it destroying cities and things back then. That was pretty impressive. Once again, and here's a thought, and I had this, and I'm like, am I going to say this? Yeah, I'm going to say this on the net. Towards the end of the show, right after possibly the world's lamest bad guy taunt, if you can, he said, we need an escape pod for LoJack. Who was it that said, well, I've got a vibrator, and then who was it that said, oh yeah, that'll be perfect? I did notice right at the end that the show started the whole pull down my shirt all the time that was pervasive in Star Trek The Next Generation. Why was it that those helicopters would nose into the space station? I didn't see any airlocks, just something that looked like windows that the people inside didn't even seem to look out of. And that's about all I've got right now. So, let's see. Frank, what can you tell us about next week's watching assignment?
KG57J, do you mean me or Tom? Back to you.
I was told to ask you by Tom.
What is next week's assignment? I don't know. KG5ZNJ.
Can you help Frank out just a little bit here?
Well, Frank, you've won the opportunity to pick one of the 13, 25, 7 episodes of the fine Canadian series, The Star Lost. So, Don Pardo, tell us what we've won. Frank, the zombie needs jobs, tell us what we've won. Back to you, KE5ICX.
This is KG57J. Well, it seems you've all won quite the adventure in the history of the mighty Dominion in science fiction. And I won't lie, this one's going to hurt. We are going to be watching The Star Loss. The episode is The Alien Oro, which stars Chekhov from Star Trek. Also stars that cat from 2001 Space Odyssey, whose name escapes me because I'm fatigued. And it's going to be a beating. And I will have to do much apologies for the Dominion. Back to you, Tom. That's at KG57J.
Why, thank you, Frank, and for a change, it's not my fault. Back to net control. This is KE5ICX.
Gentlemen, y'all are a great team, and we look forward to having you on more often. Apparently Brenda forgot or wasn't listening to what she was saying earlier when she had her turn at special effects, but Brenda, would you like to try again and pay attention this time? WB5OZL.
This is WB5OZL. Is this my penance? I have to go again? I didn't have anything to say before, now I have to say it again? Special effects. Wow. They had these little models, and they were cheesy, and the music was cheesy, and this would make a good pizza, lots of cheese. Special effects. You know, one thing I thought about, that poison cloud moved awfully fast. We know what that was. Dare I even speculate? I'm going to quit now. I'm just going to quit. WB5OZL.
I think you did great. And now it's time for does anybody else have anything else they would like to say? Maybe Tom would enlighten us on some of his thoughts on weird space stations.
Kilo 5, Juliet, Delta Whiskey.
JDW. I have you on my list. Do I have you on my list? I don't have you on my list. K5JDW, what you got? Who is this? Did you see the movie? Tell us about it.
Hello to the net. No, I just want to chime in and get on the roll as being supporting the club and just listening in. That kind of thing. I'm just not a movie person, basically. I'm almost a parasite on this thing. I just wanted to check in and get my name down on the roll somewhere. That was just about it. I'm working on stuff and been listening in about the last 2/3 of the net. K5 JDW.
Alrighty, we'd love to have you here. I'm glad you popped in, even if you don't have anything to say. This, like I said, this one was 25 minutes of or 28 minutes, somewhere in there of your life that you'd never get back. So it's not a huge chunk of your life lost, but I can understand. Frankly, like I said, a lot of times I think the discussion is more entertaining than the thing it was itself. Anybody else have a comment?
W5FC.
N5 IMS.
Go ahead.
Well, during the scenes when they were showing the models and stuff, I kept thinking back to an old show that my wife loves. Now, I don't know why she likes it, but she does, so I get to watch it. And what can I say? But that show was an old British show from about the same vintage, just a bit earlier, called The Thunderbirds. Now, if anybody remembers that show, you're bound to remember that the special effects on there always had the strings visible on whatever was moving across. So when they were doing the model thing, I was looking around there looking for the strings. And fortunately for this flick we did tonight, they had no strings. I like leaving things on a positive note, so therefore it was, there were no strings, so it had to be better than the Thunderbirds. N5 IMS.
Appreciate how deep you had to dig to find a positive note about this. Well done, sir. Anybody else have any comments? Just jump right on in.
KE5I6.
Going to tell us about space stations? Because I'm really actually interested in that. But what you got? Go ahead, Mr. Dom.
All right, Michael, but you encouraged me, and I was going to say it because I thought, well, we're not going to be discussing this thing for very long, and we've gone on and on about it, so I thought this may be filler material. But let me just say this. My whole thing is that when you see a TV series in particular, a series that has something to do with a space station, you got to ask the question, what's that doggone space station do? How important is it in the scheme of things? And probably the only one that actually worked really well in that regard was Babylon 5, which we all love, or some people love, some people hate, but most people like. Having to do with you're in a central place and all trouble comes to you. That's what that one was. This space station, who the hell knows what the hell they do or how or anything else, and why is it so big, and what's the point of the damn thing and all that, and you think about, let's see, what's another one of these, Deep Space Nine. I never understood that show, and they're strategically placed somewhere near a wormhole and things coming and going and all of that. Yeah, you can do the same thing. Underpass with McDonald's overhead going into Missouri. I've been to that place. You don't want to go there. There's nothing fun or anything interesting about it at all. Which brings me to my original point. What is the point of space stations? What do they do? Well, we have the International Space Station. What does it do? We don't know. They're in zero G. You can eat Fritos up there and all of that. And we get lots of cool zero gravity stuff. But we want them to do something substantive. We want to have, I don't know, maybe laser guns up there and shooting stuff. That would be cool. But we don't. Maybe they can do things with metal, and you can turn into perfect spheres and then take them home, and you can make them the world's most expensive ball bearings. That would be helpful, I suppose. So my question is, when you do a television series or a multi-billion-dollar space program with space stations, you got to have another thing on the space stations. 2001: A Space Odyssey. You got that big, huge Hilton Space Station number 5. There are 4 that came before it. It's huge. It's gigantic. But what do you do in that thing? How many rooms? How many people? They took the space clipper. They went up and they got Haywood Floyd, just one guy on board. He gets to the space station. How many people are on the space station? As far as I can tell, it's huge. There's like 12 people on board. Yeah, that's it for me. And by the way, I just want to remind everybody, stay off my grass. KE5I6.
IMS. And K5JW.
All right, N5IMS first.
Well, talking about space stations, at least the one on the Fifth Element, even though it was kind of like a cruise ship, it actually did something. I mean, it was a resort. They had thousands of people on there, and, you know, great material, great actors coming in there, a great opera scene, etc. Unfortunately, though, the bomb detector didn't go off until somebody mentioned that they saw a bomb, even though it was supposed to be active. This is N5IMS.
JDW.
Yeah, Tom just made me think of something. He said, remember in the Piece of the Action Star Trek, the original series, I can't remember which boss it was. It wasn't Oxmix, it was the other boss. He thought there was no people on board because he was, you know, he was telling, I guess Kirk was telling him that there was like over 400 people on board, and he didn't believe it because they only saw a few. So maybe that was the deal on the space station. K5JDW.
Could very well be. Anybody else have any comments? Hey, well, the secret assignment for tonight is somebody go over and put footprints on Tom's lawn. But since we have run out of things to say, apparently, I'm just going to say, that's it, we're done. Turn out the lights, I'm going home. Thank you all for coming, and y'all have a, right. Don't forget to set your clocks back, because tonight is clock back night in about an hour and 45 minutes. So, don't forget. It's been real. It's been fun. It's even been real fun. And, see you again next week. WT9V. Y'all have a great one.
Thank you, Michael. I left the porch on so I could see people. Stay off my grass. See you all. KE5I6. I'm clear too.
Your lawn that you need those binoculars to see people on it.
It's very important. That's all I can tell you. I watch, I got the dogs out, the guard dogs are out. I put the guard shack up, too, with the little searchlights. It's kind of cool. Neighbors don't like it, but I don't have an what is it, HOA? No, none of them. They were marched to the border years ago.
W5FC.
Keep off the grass has a whole new meaning around Oklahoma and Denver, I guess.
I want to know, Tom, with all the other things, do you have laser fencing, and does it vaporize intruders? Asking for a friend.
Michael, I've even got sand fog dissipators so that when you put the fog up so you can see it where the laser things are, it blows it away. which should have been in every frickin' movie ever made. Just little fans to blow the fog away so you can't see where the laser fences are. Just saying.
Dogs leave little landmines that would be enough to keep me out. Anyway, I'm going back to work. Good night, guys. K5JW.
Mom's yard is a very treacherous place.
Is that fan the reason why we can't see where they buried your FiOS line?
Was it Forrest Leishman? I can't remember. She says, the status can be quite treacherous.
What they did with Tom, but I do know that there are these things, machines that they use to bury lines, or can anyway, that basically is like a big knife that has a hole down the middle of it, and you feed the cable in at the top, and it comes out the bottom, and it just makes a slit along the line. That's how I watched the phone company install one of my phone lines years ago from way back in the base. It's a fairly big backyard at this place, and 5 minutes after they did it, there was no sign it had been done. That's really slick.
Kind of like an old plow, on a farm-all tractor and 5 IMS.
It is sorta, only, like I said, this thing was about 3 feet long, so it was putting the cable down about 3 feet, and it just chugged its way across the yard. It would have been really bad with, roots or other cables or anything else, but just like the cable went down at the alley and then came up again at the side of the house. I'm like, wow, slick.
We moved over here, we had the phone company come in, and of course it was a brand new house at the time, so nothing was laid in there. We had the phone company come in and put the phone line in, and about a week later, the cable company came out and put the cable line in. Well, of course, when the phone company came in, there was nothing else down, so they didn't have any issue. And then when the cable company came in a week later, they came in and laid it right across where the phone line was laid, and